there, this is Loza from the Baking Mad Gym Addict. Welcome to another food prep video. In today's session, I'll be making 55 Moroccan spiced meatballs and a big pot of wholesome chicken soup. These two recipes make 21 meals in under 3 hours. If this is too much food for you to handle, feel free to cut the ingredients in half so that you don't make as much food as I do. Both recipes can be individually portioned and frozen for about 1 month in the freezer. The cooked meatballs and soup can be stored safely in the fridge for up to 3 days before eating. If you're looking to store the food for more than 3 days, then it's best to pop your food in the freezer. Anyway, that's enough chit chat, let's get going. Today I start with making my wholesome chicken soup recipe. You will need a whole fresh chicken, 1 whole head of celery, 8 carrots, 6 tomatoes, 6 onions, 1 tablespoon of garlic paste, salt and pepper, 2 bunches of parsley and 1 tablespoon of coconut oil. I love this soup recipe because it's naturally flavoured from the chicken meat and bones, which means you don't need to add any stock cubes. Once all the vegetables are washed, slice up your yummy celery. Peel your carrots and chop them into nice thick slices. Take your onion skin and dice up the onions and then slice up your juicy tomatoes into nice wedges. I like to try and cut the chunks of my vegetables into similar sizes. I add the coconut oil to a hot pan before adding the onions, carrots, celery and chicken. I then add enough water so that everything is covered, and finally I add the garlic paste, salt, pepper, tomatoes and a large handful of chopped up parsley. This pot is my Circulon commercial stock pot, which holds about 8.5 litres of liquid. I turn up the heat and bring the pot to a boil. Once the water starts bubbling, I reduce the heat to a simmer and cook the soup for about 2.5 hours. Feel free to skim off any scum that rises to the surface from time to time. Now that the soup can be left alone, I move on to my meatballs. First of all, I make the tomato sauce. You will need 3 veggie stock cubes, 4 tins of peeled Italian tomatoes. You will also need 700 grams of passata, which is a tomato puree. You will also need 2 tablespoons of Mrs. Dash seasoning, some salt, some pepper, coconut oil spray, 3 peeled and chopped carrots, 1 sliced onion and a large handful of parsley. To make the sauce, spray the coconut oil in a large saucepan over a medium heat. Add the onion and carrots and cook for about 5 minutes until the onions begin to soften. Add the tins of tomato and passata. Stir in the stock cubes, the parsley and the salt and pepper, and then reduce the heat to low. Cover the pan and simmer your sauce gently for 30 minutes. Now it's time to make your meatballs. The full recipe and ingredients are typed out as always in the description box of this video. I make some oat flour by whizzing up some rolled oats in the blender. I then whiz up a large bunch of parsley so that I've got lovely tiny bits of parsley. I then grate the zest of 2.5 lemons. If you prefer a more sweeter flavour to your meatballs, substitute your lemon zest with 2 handfuls of finely chopped dried apricots. I put my pan on a medium heat, spray it with some coconut oil and add in my onions and lemon zest. Once the onions have been softened, turn off the heat. Remember, you can substitute the lemon zest with dried apricots if you like. I then mix in some LSA and some garlic paste. LSA mix is ground up linseed, sesame seeds and almonds. If you can't find any LSA mix, grinding up your own pine nuts is also a delicious substitute. I set this mixture aside to cool down. I then start prepping my chicken. For 55 meatballs, you need about 2,000 grams of chicken mince. This is roughly 7 chicken breasts. I usually prefer to grind my own chicken mince at home. This involves taking your chicken breasts and cutting off any fatty bits before dicing your chicken breasts into small cubes. I then put batches of chicken through my Vitamix blender and pulse the meat a few times. Try not to over-pulse and over-process your chicken to get a good consistency. Obviously, once the chicken breasts have been minced up, wash the jug thoroughly with hot soapy water. If you can't be bothered or don't have the inclination to mince up your own chicken, just buy your chicken mince from the supermarket. Add the minced chicken to the onion mixture and throw in your parsley, oat flour and Parmesan cheese. Get your hands dirty by combining all the ingredients together. Crack in 2 whole eggs and 3 teaspoons of mild Moroccan spice. Remember to make sure your meatball mixture is seasoned well with salt and pepper. Continue to mix everything together to make sure all your ingredients are nicely combined. Now comes the fun bit. Time to roll up your meatballs. I usually put my rolled up meatballs onto large trays lined with baking paper. To make sure your meatballs will cook evenly, you need to make sure they are the same size. I use a small scoop measuring 1 tablespoon to measure each of my meatballs before rolling them up. To make the rolling process much easier, I like to keep a bowl of cold water next to me to dip the palm of my hand into every so often. For some reason, wetting your hands makes the chicken mixture less sticky when you handle it, and so it makes it much more easier to roll. Once you've made your 55 meatballs, you want to spray a saucepan with some coconut oil and brown the outside of your meatballs. I turn the meatballs regularly with my fingers and some chopsticks to make sure the meatballs turn brown all over. Once the outside of your meatballs have been browned, pop them into your tomato sauce and leave them to simmer gently in a covered pot for about 25 minutes or until the chicken is cooked through. I usually love eating these meatballs with sweet potato, but today I am making some quinoa to go with them. This is a quinoa blend made from red, white and black quinoa. Simply rinse and cook your quinoa according to the instructions on the packet. Once my quinoa has been cooked, I add in some frozen peas and mix them in. So by now your meatballs will be done and your quinoa will be ready. Don't worry, Mr. Pot of Chicken Soup, I have not forgotten you. I put my attention back to the chicken soup I made earlier. I start to separate the chicken and veggies from the liquid. I usually discard the tomatoes and the celery. I keep the carrots and mash them up. I take the chicken meat off the bone and shred it up, and then add the shredded chicken and the mashed up carrots and some freshly chopped parsley back into the soupy liquid. Ta-da! You have a delicious heartwarming soup which is naturally flavoured without any stock cubes. This might take about 2.5 hours, but it's so worth it. Serving your soup in a heart-shaped bread bowl is completely optional. This is a really heartwarming soup which tastes wholesome and satisfying. Chicken soup, good for the soul. I like to store the soup in mason jars in the fridge if I'm going to be eating it for the next couple of days, or I like to put them in food containers if they're going in the freezer. As for the meatball meals, these are then portioned up into individual portion sizes, ready to eat for the week ahead if needed. Any extra meals go into the freezer to be reheated later. Sometimes if I'm not in the mood for quinoa, I just eat the meatballs as a snack on a bed of chopped up rocket leaves with some Parmesan cheese sprinkled on top. Whatever floats your boat. And there you have it. You have 11 boxes of meatball meals and about 10 servings of wholesome chicken soup. If you would like to see some more meal prep videos, please give this video a like or a comment and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Feel free to check out the rest of my food prep videos on the playlist that I've created on my YouTube channel too. You can also connect with me on my Facebook page and Instagram. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye!